Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I'm standing on a yoga mat, but if you don't have one right now, don't worry about it. Find some place that is carpeted, or maybe you've got a rug, one that's not going to be slick. It's not going to slip out from underneath you, but also not hardwood floor or linoleum. I'd like you to have some padding and a little bit of traction. I have 2 yoga blocks. A terrific substitute would be 2 thick books. And if I choose to use it, I have a throw blanket here on my couch. So for padding our knees or folding it and sitting up a little taller, that's great. Sometimes I take one of these pillows to sit on. So whatever you've got in your home can serve as your yoga mat and your yoga props, no problem. We will start today using our books or blocks underneath our elbows. It's a pretty good looking down dog tip. If you don't have these, your elbows on your mat or on the floor will be just fine. And then it's almost like we're doing a child's pose, but like a sassy child's pose with our butt to the sky. You'll bring your elbows on your blocks or books, and then you will bring your forehead on the ground and a prayer behind your back. If the prayer behind your back doesn't work, that's fine. If your forehead doesn't go onto the ground, then you can fold a blanket underneath your head. And we will pause here in what looks like a little bit of a sassy child's pose. And here in our sassy child's pose, let's find our breath. If you're able to, both in and out through your nose. You'll breathe into the stretch that you're feeling in your shoulders. You'll breathe into what always takes a moment to settle. All the thoughts of like, I wonder if I checked this, I wonder if I needed to do, let those fall away. You can use your exhales like a little bit of an eraser to let that go. And here in this little curled up position, we're turning the arrows of attention inward. Carving out a little self-care corner. Three more moments here. Bring yourself up. Wriggle yourself free from your blocks if you were using them. And then onto our bellies. And once we're on our bellies, let's take our forearms parallel to the 2 long edges of our mat and press into the tops of your feet until your kneecaps come off of your mat. Traction your elbows towards you, so instead of overusing our neck, we start to get familiar with our shoulder blade area, sort of like we were beginning to when our elbows were on our blocks. So slightly different positioning of our shoulder girdle, but we're bringing quite a bit of awareness into that thoracic spine, is what it's called. So we'll traction our elbows towards us, bring our heart through the gateway of our arms, and pause here. Then lower down, make a pillow with your hands, bend your knees, and just do a little windshield wiper action. So we never overly use our low back. It doesn't feel prickly or electrical there, any of these things that we do. Then once again, lengthen your legs out, press the tops of your feet down. Take your palms alongside you, and then you can even bring your forehead on a block or on the ground to do this, or it's fine, chin parallel to the ground. Instead of rounding your shoulders forward, use the lever of your hands to uplift your shoulder heads. Not your chin, but your shoulder heads. Let's do that a couple of times. So we're lowering our shoulder heads down. This is like me in front of my steering wheel. You too? And then we realize, oh, no, don't want to do that. And you press into your hands and you smile those collarbones away from the ground. You're using the gliding shoulder blade action as well. Okay, one more time, we're going to lower down, that's not what we want. And then we'll press and feel that this is what we want. And you can stay here or take your hands and interlace behind your back and then drag that interlace, and it's going to bring your shoulder blades even closer to one another. So what's called retraction of your shoulder blades. right? They're gliding like they're going to kiss behind you. Keep pressing into the tops of your feet and imagine that you're trying to tuck your tailbone a little bit. If you need to release this and come back and join us, totally understood. And then let's all release this. Make a pillow with our hands, bend our knees, and then just windshield wiper back and forth, letting that let go a bit. Once you're here, curl your toes under and bring your hands next to your ribs. Instead of winging your elbows out to the side, let them kiss your ribs so you can feel them brushing. With your toes curled under and your gaze forward, this is going to be a little tricky. We're coming to all fours in one piece. That's core work from the ground up. So onto all fours we go. Once we're here on all fours, let's stay. And let's align our wrists underneath our shoulders. So I'd like you to spread your hands wide and feel the circumference of each palm. So that means the circle around each palm pressing into your mat and your fingers reaching into what almost feels like clay. Now, a moment ago, we wanted to bring our shoulder blades towards each other. So let's kind of pretend that we're doing that here for a second. That's not what we want when we're weight bearing. So that's the opposite of pushing into the ground and protracting our shoulder blades. So this is retraction when we drop in. We don't want that. We want protraction once we're in this position. And we have both this position and the retraction in a sun salutation. We're kind of nerding out, breaking that down a little bit. But it's important to know. I think it makes the movements that we're after a little bit clearer. So here on all fours, we get to have access to that action in our shoulder blades. Now lift your tailbone towards the sky and imagine a hook there that's going to take you into down dog. But before we go, really push the ground away. So the combination of the hook in your tailbone and pushing the ground away take you up and back. Let's step our feet as wide as our mat and be on the balls of our feet with our knees bent, and then really find as much space as we can, including in that area of our shoulder blades. Now I know this is a different action, and it's literally a different action in your shoulder blades, but I would like you to push the ground away so that you feel your back body, side body, and front body grow longer. Walk your feet to your hands, all the way up to your hands. Feet are hip distance and parallel, and we're here towards the front edge of our mat. Slide your hands on your ankles, shins, or even up to your thighs and inhale. And then slide your hands down and exhale. Try to keep your spine as long as you can. Then we inhale. Rise, reach thumbs to the sky, a V shape. We'll stand in our mountain, and I would like us to feel our shoulder blades as we stand up. It's a little trickier when we're in this familiar standing position, right? So from your shoulders, remember when we were lying on our bellies with our palms facing down? We're kind of doing that right now. In fact, reenact that and pretend that you're on the ground. And we pushed into our hands and we lifted and smiled our shoulder blades, right? So turn your palms towards you and slump your shoulders. This is what we don't want to be doing. Now turn your palms away from the shoulder joint, sort of like we did on our bellies, and let that lift your heart high. We'll do that one more time. We're rotating where we don't want to go, and then we rotate our palms out and let that educate the shoulder blade area of our spine, our stance. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Glide your hands up, inhale. Let's just exhale, fold it back in. And then inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V. Stand with your palms facing out. Imagine that we're on our belly and finding that lift of our shoulder heads. Adding onto our sun salutation, inhale, V shape. And then exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs, shins, or ankles. Glide your hands up, inhale. Bend your knees as deeply as you need to place your palms flat. We'll push the ground away like we did earlier and step back to down dog. If you now feel like hip distance is a good stance for your feet, that's fine. Come into a plank and remember our conversation about not collapsing our shoulder blades. So keep pushing the ground away here as well. And then bring yourself back, hook and tailbone to down dog so our hips are lifting up and back. One more time, we come into plank, just plank alone. Push the ground away. Find the hook in your tailbone. Let that take you to downward facing dog. This time as we come to plank position, we keep pushing the ground away. We'll bring our knees down, so it's like a kickstand. It's a little further back than when we are on hands and knees, so think 3 inches back from where hands and knees would live. And then looking forward, bend your elbows so your elbows brush your ribs and lower all the way down onto your belly. Remember our belly back bends. Uncurl your toes and activate your legs. Keep your hands, if you don't mind, where they are. If you do mind, Sphinx pose is great. So elbows are in, and we just traction our chest through the gateway of our arms, and our shoulder blades are kind of moving towards one another. They're in that retraction. Then we'll lower down, curl our toes under, come through all fours, and then lift our hips up and back, down dog. Push the ground away. Walk your feet forward to your hands. Feet are hip distance. Slide your hands up. Inhale. Glide your hands down. Exhale. Inhale, rise, reach. Thumbs to the sky, a V. We'll stand in our mountain. Palms facing out. Let's flow. Inhale, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs, shins, or ankles. Inhale, glide your hands up, bend your knees deeply, palms go flat, and we push the ground away right away. From our down dog, shift it to plank, shoulders over your wrists, bring your knees down, and then lower all the way down onto your belly. Uncurl your toes and bring yourself into a cobra pose. Lower down, curl your toes under, come through all fours, and then lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. We'll walk our feet to our hands. We arrive there, feet hip distance. Glide your hands up, inhale. Glide your hands down, exhale. Rise, reach, inhale. Arms to the sky, thumbs to the sky. Stand in your mountain, palms facing out. Inhale, V. Exhale, hinge, hands to thighs, shins, or ankles. Glide your hands up, inhale, bend your knees, palms flat, step back, down dog. Shift it to plank, shoulders over wrists, and then your knees come to your mat and you lower all the way down. Uncurl your toes and come into a cobra pose. Then lower down, curl your toes under, come through all fours. The hook in your tailbone takes you into downward facing dog. Walk your feet to your hands again. We're hip distance and parallel. Glide your hands up. Inhale, lift your heart. And exhale, slide your hands down. Inhale, rise, reach. Thumbs to the sky, a V, and then we stand in our mountain. And we feel our arms turning out, our heart lifting, the things that we've been pulling apart a little bit and watching on our bellies and then standing up into. We bring them with us. We pause to notice. Inhale, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs, shins or ankles. Inhale, glide your hands up, bend your knees, palms flat, down dog. Push the ground away. Lift your right leg back behind you, step it forward, help it along, and then let's bring our 2 blocks to frame our right foot. And we'll build this from the ground up. Heel toe that right foot over to the right. Nice deep bend in our front knee. And I like a bend in my back knee as I come upright. So we'll come upright and then take your arms wide out to the side, thumbs facing up. We'll turn our thumbs to face down, but let's try to keep that feeling of the uplift of our heart. And then bring your fists behind you in a fist bump. And we'll still try to find that smiling collarbone feel. It might be that you make a prayer back there, but if that's turning into what we've been rehearsing is not what we want to do, then make it something that can help you to smile, your collarbones and anything else, instead of collapse. And now let's stay just a couple of moments like this. Free your arms out to the side, and then to your blocks. And move your blocks off your mat, palms go flat, step it to down dog. Choose to stay in down dog, that's a great place to be, or come to plank, keep pushing the ground away, knees down. All the way to our bellies we go. We come into a cobra, and that cobra really feels like all those places we've decided we do want to go with our upper back. Lower down, curl your toes under, come to all fours in one chunk, and then hips lift you up and back for down dog. Lift your left leg back behind you. Step it forward, trot your 2 blocks in, and let's heel toe our left foot over to the left. We're building this from the ground up. We bend our back knee and we upright into our crescent pose, and we'll take our arms wide out to the side. We've got that feeling of spaciousness in our front body and in our collarbones. We'll keep that as we turn our thumbs down, and then either a fist bump behind your back or possibly climbing a prayer of some sort up your back, but we want to make sure it's not a rounding action. So whatever it is we're choosing is feeding that uplift of our heart and the shoulder blades gliding towards one another. 2 moments. We'll release our arms out to the side wide, take our hands on our blocks so that during our dismount we can move them out of our way, and step to down dog. From down dog, walk your feet forward to your hands. We are hip distance and parallel. Slide your hands up, inhale, and then back down, exhale. Inhale, rise, reach, arms to the sky, thumbs to the sky, and then we stand in our mountain, palms facing out. We'll take our block so that we've got 2 blocks. We're going to now make this long edge of our mat the front edge of our mat. So place them on either end, but off the side of your mat so that we don't feel like they're underfoot. We don't want to be tripping on our blocks. Then step wide, and our first measurement is roughly ankles underneath wrists. Turn your right leg out, cheat your left heel at a 45-degree angle, and then bend that front knee. And for me to accomplish a vertical line from my right knee to my right ankle, I need more front and back space. You might find the same to be true for you. We're in our Warrior 2 position, and we will wear our new prayer behind the back into this. So turn your thumbs to face down and find your fist bump or your prayer behind your back, but here in our Warrior 2. Let's pause. A couple of things we want to be aware of: that we're not crumbling forward. We're also not turning this into a crazy struggling back bend in our low back. So right hip hugs underneath us. We feel this to be buoyant and uplifted, and we take a couple moments where we are. Free your arms and straighten that front leg. Sneak your left heel back a little bit further. We're not side bending here. We're going to lift this left hip and take this hinge at our right hip. Reach way out with your right hand and find your block on the outside of that right foot. Then we turn our top thumb to face down and weave that behind us in a half bind, or maybe just back of your left hand to the small of your back. Even at this crazy angle, in a triangle, we want to try to find the things that we have been fine-tuning. So collarbones smiling, shoulder blades actually moving towards one another a little bit here. And then we'll pause and stretch and breathe and explore for a few moments. Free this left arm up to the sky. Look down and bend your right knee so that you can move your prop off the side of your mat. We'll come through a brief Warrior 2 and then straighten that front leg. Turn all toes to face the long edge of your mat. Turn your left leg out so now your left foot is facing that short edge. Cheat your right heel back so you're a 45-degree angle, and we'll bend our left knee. It should be pretty well spaced, but we did do triangle and maybe that changed things up. So left knee and left ankle, vertical line. Thumbs face down, but heart stays open. And we will either bring a fist bump behind our back, or maybe we fashion a prayer. And we're letting this uplift our heart, smile our collarbones, and not dump into our low back. And then we just soak in it. There's a few things going on. There's a hip opening nature to this Warrior 2 pose, and a heart opening to our prayer behind our back. We'll soak for 3 moments, just as we are. And we'll free our arms and straighten our front leg. I remind you, we're not bending at the waist, we're hinging at the hip. So let your right hip lift up, your left arm reach out long, and left hand comes onto your block. Outside of your left foot, our right arm reaches up, but then we turn our thumb down and we weave that arm behind our back in a half bind, or take the back of our right hand to the small of our back. And then we feel evidence of that work in our upper back that we've familiarized ourselves with. Shoulder blades gliding towards each other, collarbones smiling, and we silently soak in our triangle pose for a few moments. To come out of this, free your right arm up, bend your left knee, and move that block off the side. A brief warrior two, but we straighten our front leg and turn all toes to face the long edge of our mat, and then we will heel toe until we're hip distance, and we can move about the cabin. Let's relocate these 2 blocks in case we want to use them for anything. We will put them off the side of our mat and come back to the front edge of our mat, to our mountain. Can we bring with us the work we've done? You can even work on this when you're standing in line at the grocery store, right? When you're wandering through your house, just notice if this starts happening and find your way back to what we've been working on together today. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs, or shins, or ankles. And then inhale, slide up, lift up. Palms flat, step to your down dog. From your down dog, shift it to plank. Bring your knees on your mat. Lower all the way to your belly. And this time stay here. Bend your knees so that your feet are facing the sky. And while we're here, imagine that you're trying to tuck your tailbone, so this doesn't feel prickly in your low back. Then reach back with your hands. And most of us are not going to find our feet, and that's fine. You might lift your thighs. If that's giving you prickly electrical stuff in your low back, leave that part out. There will be a couple of us who might be able to reach back and find our feet. I wouldn't make that a goal. It's one way of doing this. And then if you are holding your feet, you can lift your thighs and kick it back. That leverage actually in some ways makes this an easier pose for you. My friends who are not holding on, you can reach back and try to lift your thighs, and this is really good for what's called your posterior chain. So this is strengthening your back body, but I don't want that electrical feedback, so be honest about it. Then let's release your feet if you've got them, make the pillow with our hands, and then just do our windshield wiper back and forth for a moment. From here, lie down on your back. I'm going to swing around so I can still face you. Lie down on your back with your feet hip distance and parallel. Shimmy your shoulder blades, those shoulder blades we've been talking about so much, underneath you. And I think the feedback of being on the ground is so helpful. I know it is for me. I can feel my shoulder blades. I mean to when they're in midair, but here I really can, right? So we want to bring them towards each other. Fingers to the sky as if you were a little robot. Keep the shoulder blades moving towards each other. Stamp your feet into your mat and start to lift your hips. This looks a lot like what we just did on our bellies, or attempted to do, right? But now we've got that really special feedback with our shoulder blades. Lower down, place a hand on your heart and a hand on your low belly. We'll do that one more time. If that was enough, be honest and just stay here. If you feel like you want another round of that, we're in our robot arms. You'll lift your hips and we pause. Lower it down, cross right ankle on top of left thigh. This could be plenty. Maybe take your right hand through the space and interlace either around your shin or your hamstring on that left leg. If there's a lot of struggle going on, put one of your books or blocks underneath your head, or you can pull a pillow off your couch. And then let's just enjoy this hip stretch and pause. place your left foot on the ground, unlace if you've got that going on. Consider crossing your right knee over for a twist. So hips right and knees drop left. Then come to center, place your feet hip distance, take your left ankle on top of your right thigh, and maybe this is enough, or you reach through the space and hug your knees towards you. There's a lot of up dogging and down dogging going on. My lovely assistant here. If you've not yet met, this is Tippy. And then we'll be quiet and stretch. Let's take a twist. Maybe left knee on top of right knee. We'll drop our knees over to the right. Let our hips move over to the left. And then we come down the middle for our Shavasana final meditation. You can keep your knees bent, you can straighten your legs, you can love on your dog. But this is our rest and digest. Close your eyes if that's comfortable, or just soften your gaze. You're more than welcome to stay in Shavasana for as long as you would like. If you're ready, give yourself a stretch. Gather your knees in your chest and roll gently to one side. Use the strength of your arms to come up to any comfortable seat. Maybe that's a cross-legged seat. Maybe that's sitting on one of your blocks or books. And then let's place our hands on our heart and pause in gratitude. I'm Andrea. I'm so grateful to you for practicing with me today. I look forward to us doing it again together soon.